With 5 or barely 5 days to go before the general election 2022, Kenya is prepared. And how prepared are we? We are seeking divine intervention. That is according to the Iebc chair, who today congregated with bishops from the Catholic Church, saying a word of prayer, hoping that these prayers will stop a lot of members who are campaigning to become candidates a lot of candidates who are campaigning to become leaders or political leaders in whatever offices, from stopping them to go into the courts, praying the courts to seek some justice. Well, this and much more we will be discussing during this conversation, without forgetting that Wajakoya, presidential candidate for Tingiza Miti Chama, rather that other Chama that you people know about, has decided to throw in some weight and say he is in support of one Raila Amolo Odinga, the Azimio candidate. What are the odds that are coming out with this, even seeing that the candidate who is supposed to be standing on his own now seeking to support another candidate, whereas the running mate, Justina, says if she was to be asked something that was never discussed, she will not vouch for Raila Odinga. This and much more, ladies and gentlemen, we bring you right here on The President We Want, and we start now. Elections 2022. Let me start with the African man who has been missing in action. Good evening, African man, and how are you tonight?
Good evening, good evening. I hope you are hearing me. I see the predictions are coming for real, eh? Some people say...
We predicted this and you argued out. So yes. I don't know what defense you want to give Wajakoya before we go ahead with the conversation.
I don't have to give Wajakoya any defense, because a force to reckon with is a force to reckon with. It's a time to a change of mindset. You understand? So for me, I look at it like it's 9 days to elections. I mean, less than 10 days to elections, and people are trying to throw in the last card. The card is Wajakoya a project? Is he an individual? Has he got money? Is the running mate with him or not? And it is all about destabilizing the old mentality, which I really like, and I'm really enjoying it right now. So the question is, who is being destabilized here?
Who is being destabilized is the question you will be asking during this conversation, as yes, you Tingiza that muti behind you. Let me welcome in Godwin Segero. Good evening, Godwin. How are you tonight?
Good evening, Eli. Good to see you. How are you, Matasio?
Hi.
Godwin, are you surprised with the current affairs, Wajakoya's U-turn?
Not surprised per se, but disappointed to some extent, because we're trying to look at options, and with this election, Wajakoya had come in as an alternative to the status quo, because the two front runners, there are people who've been there. It's just a matter of changing camps. So Wajakoya had come in, although his narrative was not so, how do I put it? It was not going well with some quarters of the society, but still there are people who are buying into that idea. But now for him to come and change mind, you see, even if he is a project as it's perceived, he would have waited until maybe the last minute. Maybe he would have had a role to play in a rerun. But coming in, you're a candidate on your own, and you're supporting someone else. It really speaks volume, and that means we still have a long way to go as a country. If the people we're trying to get as an alternative are coward, so to speak. And then the only blessing that Wajakoya brought to Kenya is Justina Amai, because she stood out to be someone with an independent mind, someone who can stand for what she believes in. That brilliant person that can speak for herself. I think that's the only blessing that Wajakoya gave us this year.
Thank you so much, Godwin. Such an emotional, opening remark. Let's have MK, Ronald from Kabagali, and Kadima Advocates. Good evening, Advocate. And how do you feel about the divine intervention and Wajakoya's U-turn, like you predicted?
Good evening, Eli, and all my colleagues. Actually, this is what I had foreseen. This is actually the sheep, the wolf now coming out of the sheep's skin. This is what it was. I knew Wajakoya was a project, and everybody else predicted this. Wajakoya was not his own man. He has never been. There has been rumors. We have just confirmed that. And what we have actually heard and read today is not a rumor. We watched the clip. We saw him beating drums for Raila Odinga in a club. In fact, in a club. See, I'm not saying a club is bad, but that's where now real colors come out. You know, when somebody tells you something in a club, you gotta believe it. You better believe it. It is actually the truth. That is that came out. I'm glad it came out, and we shall see more even after elections. We shall see people coming out declaring exactly where they were and why they have been where they have been because of their own interests. We shall see.
Because of their own interest, you say, MK and Karibu Sana. Everybody that is watching, welcome to the conversation. Let's have your input in this conversation as we talk about the divine intervention, courtesy of one and only CHEBUKATI WAFULA. I see Anne says, Justina, that's a bang. Thank you so much. We have Jakita who says, the president we want as in heart official, Karibu Sana, to the conversation. We have, who else do we see here? I think the front runner right now on our comment section is Anne Kamau. Thank you so much, Anne, for tuning in. And we have Noreen who says, Anne, that is so true. I think they're having a great conversation happening there. Wajakoya amesema ground ni more fire. Okay, thank you so much. So, gentlemen, why are we talking about this issue of the prayers? If you guys have not had the chance to know what is happening, apparently the Iebc chair, who is WAFULA CHEBUKATI, decided to seek divine intervention. This is just an excerpt from a sister media company back there in Kenya. Let's take a listen in.
On our part, we want to make it very difficult for them to go to court by the transparency measures we have put around the process. Because we are telling them election is at the polling station. It will start and end there. The results will be announced at the polling station. We have allowed them to take photos of the results, those who are agents, those who are observers, and even the media. And if the available result forms will also be given out. So you'll know your result at the polling station. And we're also saying you can also have your own parallel vote tallying. You can also total your results. So the issue of saying I don't know my results were stolen should not be there. And so we believe with those measures in place, there will be less disputes, and then we should have a peaceful country after the announcement and declaration of winners, after the results are announced. So mine this morning is just to say we are as transparent as we can. And today, if you look at the daily newspapers, we have published 2 pages on the frequently asked questions as to about the electoral process. So we encourage the Kenyans and your congregations to read those what we have published, and also engage us through the call center. It's working 24 hours, 3 shifts. On any questions that or concerns that they may have as regards the electoral process.
Gentlemen, you've heard that confession that the Iebc seems very ready and confident that it's going to deliver, but of course seeking divine intervention on the whole process. Let's start with you, African man. What's your contribution to this?
You know, you see, that's one of the biggest jokes, eh? You know, this idea of mixing politics and religion is the first step of a whole system falling in lies. Let's be very honest. You know, when I look back, I ask myself, do we need prayers or do we need voter or electoral education and stuff like that? When people start to say, like, say example, somebody's sick, then you go like, wacha tuombe tu Mungu. It's a way of accepting that we are not in control. There's some mysterious things happening. That's why we're doing it. And this is a repetition all the time. We always get, with all these situation. You get away in the moment the politics start to lean on the church. It is always to reinforce a lie or a propaganda. That I believe in. It's only to reinforce a lie or a propaganda. So when somebody says, oh, we have to pray so that people will not fight in case there is a problem, it means we are hiding the reason why people would fight. So, and because this news came, I was really curious about it, you know. It is like Wajakoya is shifting posts, Iebc is leaning on the church, and last time we talked a lot about Raila, and Ruto is still somewhere angry, shouting at people. Then, you know, like there is something cooking in the African pot, which smells a rat. And that's why I cannot say much right now. I wait for Friday, because I know by Friday it will be boiling and we'll be really smelling. What are we cooking? Is it matumbo? Is it nyama choma? We will get the smell around Friday. So this one, I hold my horses, but I tell the Kenyan electorate, the fact that Iebc itself is starting to lean on the lie, the pastors, the motivation speakers, and the politicians always say, then we are cooking a lie. I don't know, MK is smiling there. I don't know if he agrees with me today or not, but this one is a clear cook of lie. The moment the church is involved,
Indeed, I agree. Yes, I almost entirely agree with you when you say that sometimes we tend to seek refuge in prayers when we actually know the cause of our reasons, of our problems. I mean, there are prayers all over. You see, does it mean we have never been praying? In 2007 we never prayed. In 2017 we never prayed. We have been praying. People are praying every Sunday in churches. You know, they are always praying for this country. You cannot just come up and having all these rallies for prayers all of a sudden, and we are claiming that, oh, we are relying now on prayers for peace. Prayers don't bring peace. It is us. We fight. We are going to fight. It is not the prayers. It's nobody else. Not a strange. Not a villain who actually fights in this country. It is us. You know, it is our own integrity. It is our own doing or misdoings that need to be addressed. It is not the prayer. The prayers help, but you know, even God says, when you pray, you may be assisted. But who assists you? We'll send somebody. There are no angels nowadays. You see, so that somebody is now ourselves.
What do you mean there are no angels nowadays?
Where do you find an angel?
Okay.
Where do you find angels? It is us. You see, they are nowhere. And when you say CHEBUKATI is actually the CHEBUKATI, I tend to have missed that clip. But CHEBUKATI is actually raising some silently and without using words, raising some concern. You know, when you say pray for our families, you know, we have been in this country for quite some time. We were there in 2017 when somebody, just days to elections, Sando was actually disappeared and was murdered. These guys will never tell you exactly what they are going through. There are external pressures, and these pressures are not pressures that are actually in the interest of justice, credible elections, and you see all that, and transparency. There are pressures that want people are putting pressure on them to the extent that they want them to influence elections in some way. But you see, these guys are experiencing all this, but not personally, sometimes even to the extent of your family being involved. So when you see somebody saying pray even for our families, you don't know who has been threatened. Maybe somebody has been even threatened. You do this or something will happen to you. You never know. So they actually need prayers, but those prayers must be very genuine. We must tell exactly why do we need prayers? Who is causing you to want to be in need of the prayers? That is now where the solution.
Are you MK? Are you really saying we don't need prayers? Let's have Godwin. No divine intervention.
Let me say, whatever CHEBUKATI is doing, okay, he's doing the right thing to exude confidence so that Kenyans relax at this time. I know he said he's assuring us, he's trying to assure the church that they've put everything in place to make sure people don't go to courts. And by referring to that, he says because he's allowed people to have parallel trialing, but that's not all that needs to be done for people not to go to court. Because people look at the first thing, you remember even what led to nullification of the 2017 election. It was not the result itself, it was the process. And I can tell you this for free and take it to the bank. As we speak right now, all these formations, they are gathering evidence for them to go to court. So people are not waiting for the results to be announced for them to go to court. Now people are looking for what are the things that are happening right now from the time IEBC started procuring things and stuff. What is happening? And those are the things that these guys are going to use when they end the Supreme Court, because there's something this new dispensation brought in. I mean, the 2010 Constitution after 2013, which was the first election under the new Constitution. We ended up in Supreme Court. 2017, we were there, and I can guarantee you, this one we are also going together. I don't think there's someone who is ready to accept defeat from the onset and say, you know what, we lost fairly. Everyone is going to cite because of this. We didn't lose. So, for some reason, Supreme Court is inevitable, even in this election.
Can I react to that? Yes.
Yes, please.
What he says is what I was even thinking about, because you see, it is a very tactical way of preparing the mass. You understand? Last time we talked about, is it a do or die election or not? You understand? That was the big question. If Raila fails to get in there, is it a do or die question? If Ruto fails, is it a do or die question? It's when somebody is very sick and they go to hospital, there are two chances. Or you will die or you will survive. So they always tell you, if it's 50-50 chance, they start to bring God involved. You know, not even God. They start to bring religion, not spirituality, but religion. So the thing is this: if Ruto fails and there is war, we already talked, it must be God to solve it. So right now, for a mere thing of you as a Kenyan deciding who is my leader, you want to make it that God has decided. So you see, that's why I'm saying the rat that is smelling is not even smelling a rat, it's stinking a rat, a very big stench. Because you shift from the process. The process is very simple. Make elections as transparent as possible, as free as possible, and as fair as possible. You don't need prayers for these things. You do not pray. You do not need prayers. I agree with my friend MK. There are sometimes you don't need prayers. You know, it is very simple that God exists, and we all believe in God. But this strategy of shifting the mind to now start to intoxicate people with religious dogma to accept whatever happens, whether it is war, whether it's rigging, whether it is lying, whether it's corruption, is where the problem lies. Now, my concern is, why would Iebc being saying that? Why would Iebc be turning to prayers? I mean, it is the organ that has to be as transparent as possible. Whether you are an unbeliever, whether you are a believer, whether you are a Muslim, you have to trust their system. But now they are telling you, oh, this system is now being taken care of by God. How? Really?
But
how?
Matasio, let's not really divert from the real issue here. Because I believe, like Iebc chair has publicly declared, that they are going to make sure that the election process is as transparent as possible. One, to avoid unnecessary approaches to the courts. And we do know that some candidates will still pursue that option because it exists. It's a provision during the election dispute process. Number two, they are avoiding a scenario of where people will mistrust the role the Iebc is playing, by making sure that even if you're there, you are able as media to access the necessary information. You are allowed to do parallel tallying. Is that supposed to combat the fears that Iebc, for a long time, Kenyans have had mistrust issues with it? MK, and then let's have you, Godwin, coming in.
First of all, Eli, when you look at the issue of mistrust, you know, first of all, you've just finished your point by talking of parallel tallying. The fact that some forces or some agencies or some media houses are pushing for a parallel tallying should tell you that, one, already there is a very big percentage of mistrust. There is a big magnitude of mistrust on the Iebc. The Iebc cannot be fully trusted. And this goes to previous elections. That is why people are pushing to have a parallel tallying and be allowed to even publish their results, or even distribute or air their results, because we are not sure whether IEBC is going to do the right thing. And when IEBC tells you or tells us that they are doing everything they can do to avoid election petitions, just as CHEBUKATI was saying. Now, when does, as Godwin said, you know, election petitions are actually prepared. People start preparing for election petitions from the time even before the nomination of candidates. People start gathering evidence of election malpractices. People start gathering. You know, lawyers are always there, out there. Some lawyers are even procured before the candidates are nominated, so that you gather everything that is illegal in that process all the way to the elections, so that when it comes to that, you have gathered evidence throughout the whole process. If the nomination was not fair or there were malpractices, you already have a reason to go to court. Even if you are not on the final ballot, you can still go to court. And looking at that, you can see that IEBC has even cleared some candidates in a very unclear ways. If CHEBUKATI was very honest and with what he's saying, he should have started by that. He locked out some candidates even after court rulings. The likes of Ruben Kagame were locked out even after court rulings against the production of IDs for 48,000 candidates. I mean, supporters for independent candidates. He still didn't want to redo the process. You see, all that is a malpractice. That is already a point that the IEBC has shot itself in the foot for. That is those are the issues that CHEBUKATI should be actually addressing. But when CHEBUKATI comes out and resorts to only telling us that now we are doing this and we can't see it, or we are praying, we are hoping and asking for prayers for our families. You know, human beings are sometimes funny, not really funny, but we are wired to resort to prayers when we have reached the very last option. Even the non-pagans, people who don't even believe there is a God, will mention God when they are really fucked up. When everything is like they are flat, you will see somebody mentioning God. You know, like they are using prayer as a last resort. Right now, we are having people sharing. In fact, politicians. The other time, Joho and Junet were sharing an edited clip of Ruto on Twitter. They are the same people who will join in prayers, or even telling the peoples in rallies that we want peace. But you're sharing something that you can't even verify whether it is true or edited. That's what happens. Eventually we will have war. We will have people causing violence. Then what comes on the table is we are blaming the people. We are saying we are praying to God, but we are not looking at ourselves. That is now a problem.
And see, speaking of mistrust, I think as MK puts it, there's a lot that IEBC needs to do. I think as much as they've been put to task to answer questions that Kenyans are raising, but it's not just a matter of doing it for the sake of doing it for PR purposes. They really need to be working on the process, on the election itself, because people are pointing out issues, and when time comes, those things are going to come out. You're not going to tell people, you know what, the elections were fair and credible because each formation, including the media, they had a parallel tallying center. Because if you tally an already cooked result, it won't change the fact that there was a malpractice. For instance, let's say in a polling center, because let's remember, IEBC, as much as we're going to have parallel tallying centers, whatever comes from Bomas of Kenya, or rather from the National Tallying Center, is the official result. So we have an instance, and where a form has left the polling station. It has to go to Bomas for verification. You understand? Because IEBC is going to declare results after all the forms have gone to Bomas for verification. That's when it's going to declare the result. So you've taken an image of a certain form, and then when it gets there, maybe there's another form, and then there's one tallying center, one parallel tallying center that reflects the corrupted form, and you having the original form, and they're not adding up. So where does the problem come? So it has to start with making sure that the process is so smooth that there are no chances of any malpractice in between. That's when you can say parallel telling center will solve the issue of people not complaining. But just because you've allowed people to tell you around, it's not going to make any big difference. That's my view.
Okay, gentlemen, with only 5 days to go, a lot of questions and answers are arising on the preparedness of the IEBC, even as Kenyan gear up to go and place their vote and finally get to choose or select and appoint their leaders into those offices. I see quite some conversation happening here. Let me pick out one here, and this is in reference to African Man. Maybe you need to rephrase your words and say the church needs to pray, IEBC needs to act. What do you say, sir?
Yeah, I 100% agree. Actually, that's what I exactly meant. Sometimes it is not nice for leaders to shift from their role. When IEBC shifts from their role of being the executive or rather the trustee of elections, they start to talk about God, is the job of pastors. That's exactly what I meant. So when you see a politician bring in God, he's trying to escape his responsibility. I agree with her completely. I agree with her completely. That's exactly what I meant. When you see, it's like when a pastor starts to talk about business and money, it is not about faith anymore. The same when a politician starts to talk about, oh, believe in God, blah, blah, he's lying to you. So I agree with her. I agree with the statement.
So in other words, people should stick to their lanes.
Yes, exactly. IEBC, ongeni maneno ya election. Pastor, ongeni. Finished.
Okay, IEBC talk about elections, pastors continue praying. How about motivation speakers?
Tuachana nao. Tungoje tushinde, watasema vile walitupigia. Vile alianza kariera yao na kura moja.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, everybody that is watching. I see Frederick Mugo, karibu sana. Naomi Wanjugu, I hope utatupea njugu na kula pia sisi tule. Thank you so much for tuning in. And Seraphine, your contributions are very healthy. I appreciate you. I see Noreen, who has decided to go mute. But then again, it's a very, very interesting conversation that men are having and ladies are actually contributing in all ways. That is such a balanced diet. How about that? Let me get you a couple of more clips that I want us to talk about because we still have quite mouthful issues to address on this conversation. And I will want us to take a look to prayer issues because prayers have been happening everywhere. And one man that decided that he knows how to pray better is one Mr. William. Okay, I think the computer is playing what it does best. So let's get this clip quickly and then we'll come back and respond to it. Well, usikiae maombi. I don't know what MK has to say about that. MK, are the prayers still working for you?
Actually, when I see that clip, and I've also watched so many people mocking it and creating memes out of it. Earlier, I must tell you, number one, that everybody is a human being, and people are emotional, including myself. Sometimes I have actually shed tears. Not necessarily in prayer, for other reasons. I have seen people shed tears when they are in prayer. When you take that clip to mean that this is actually meant to seek sympathy votes for any reason, I don't know, you may be right, but again, you may be wrong. That was a prayer session. That was a prayer session. People get spiritual, people get emotional. I know there are people who are actually really spiritual. I don't know whether really emotional or that too much religious, but I don't think there was anything beyond the beyond actually the session, which was a prayer session, the emotions, which were prayer emotions, and the fact that everybody there was singing and praying. I think it was just for that. Only that the camera captured it. I don't think it was actually some instruction that the cameraman should capture Ruto shedding tears in a prayer session or anything. I didn't see anything beyond a normal prayer session.
Can I add on that? I want to agree with you and also just talk about Ruto as a personality. It's not the first time Ruto is crying. We all know that. So that's when I agree with you personally. Sometimes we are human beings, and sometimes, I mean, usually we are human beings, and sometimes we are in positions that, we get touched emotionally. And I can be honest, there was a very funny story when Wetangula's issue with the wife, and he's making reports, and the other one laughing at him, a man should not cry, a woman has beaten him. Then there was also the other time Ruto cried at some meeting. And so for me, I would not even look at it as a drama. This is just somebody who's like, in my family, we have shitual. We pray every morning, every evening. There's sometimes we pray until my father cries, and my bigger brother, my sister, my mother. So this one, I think it is also, if for the rumors of, oh, it's sympathy votes, in as much as I don't disagree with Ruto, but on a human level, on a spiritual level, that is just how we live as human beings.
Yeah.
That's just what we live. So I think if this clip would have been shown on something like in the middle of life, and maybe it is on Ruto's daughter's wedding or something, and he cried out of joy because the daughter is getting married or something like that, would we say he's getting sympathy as the vice president? No, these things happen. So for me, I agree completely. He should even cry more, but that's nothing to do with politics. This is just Ruto who he is. He's a guy who gets emotional a lot of times. You have seen it before. Sometimes he gets very emotional and shouts and atukana watu. Sometimes he gets very emotional. He says some things to the president. So this is real character. Akishikwa kidogo, anaweza lia, anaweza tukanana, hata anaweza kuchapa kofi. So for me, I think this one, we put it out of the context. It is
Out
not.
of context.
It is not. I mean, we put it out of discussion. It's just like how people are. I don't see it as a political strategy or an election or a sympathy thing. From my point of view as an African man.
Okay, great. Godwin,
something
that
just
the African, just before you come in, something that the African man has touched on, and of course MK, it's about the issue of Ruto being emotionally aware. He is able to relate with his feelings and admit when he feels that he has to go into that, I would call it a trance time. Is that the kind of president we want? A president that is emotionally connected to the people and things around him?
Yeah, definitely would want a leader, a president who really connects, who really understands what the common man is going through, you see. And it's from that perspective that they can give practical solution, knowing that when someone says they've slept hungry, it's not because they didn't have an alternative food, it's because they can't afford to put a meal on the table. But looking at it again, Eli, this is a very critical time to analyze anything a politician does, because we know how theatric politicians can be in Kenya. We all know the suckers we are treated to when during times of election. This is the time you'll find people going to buy stuff from Kibanda. This is the time people will go to eat from this Vibanda in our locals. You know, people going to visit people living in grass houses and such like stuff. So there's a lot of theatrics. Now when you come to, there's always a thin line to distinguish when these people are really genuine, maybe like the case of Ruto, when they're praying or not, because these are people who are in the limelight, and they know that wherever they are, they've been covered. And that's why you'll find when they're doing that, the likes of, you've seen even Igatha going to clean toilets, but there's always a camera next to it. You know, these people don't do it genuinely. They do most of the things for the camera.
So is it your view that was a camera event?
I know Matasi would say this time it was just a coincidence. He was crying and the camera captured fine. But again, to some extent, it's just...
Matasio, you want to give a quick response?
Yes, I want to also make it clear that I try to look at people in three categories. You know, you have your physical world. Your physical world, as I always say, is you are a politician. You are expected this way. You must drive a big car. You must do this. You have money and everything in the physical world. Mm-hmm. The intellectual world, then you have, what do you know? Do you have a good manifesto? Do you have principles? Do you have what? In a spiritual world, do you believe? Do you believe in a supernatural being? Do you believe in God and all those things? So for me, it's very okay for somebody like African leaders. We know we are very spiritual African people, but we get confused between spirituality and religion. So for me, I just see a normal leader getting in touch with himself on a prayer session, and it will be in a bar, and he will dance because he's being touched with something. And we know Ruto doesn't drink. His excitement is limited to spirituality, not to other external influences. So I agree with him, and I just want to correct Ann Kama, who said African man who umechoma sasa eti ni sympathy tears. No, I did not say anything about sympathy tears. I actually said those are genuine tears. This is a man who is in charge, and being a celebrity like me, cameras are always on you. So when I cry, I know kuna mtu ananiona. The only thing mimi nakulaga safe, kama niko kwa choo nimefunga mlango na kuna camera, then I know I'm safe. Lakini kule kote, there is always a camera on you. And I will not stop crying in church kwa sababu camera niangalia, sitaogopa. So live your life. Ruto is living his spiritual life, which I agree with. Whether it's, I don't know whether it's religious or spiritual, but at least this is a man who's being touched. So
I understand what and you see where I'm coming from. You know, we've had in the recent past conversation around the church, and you see during this period of election, usually church plays a very important role. And if you all remember, Honorable Raila Odinga was captured on he was when he was talking about equality of religion in Kenya. And you see, people misquoted when he said the issue of Christianity was brought by colonialists, and he's going to fight it so that there's equality. But now people pick out few things to suit their narrative, and they say Raila is Antichrist. Is that the truth? You know, and then you look at the genuineness in what these people do. It's only a politician who, during the day on the campaign trail, they'll abuse each other, and then on Sunday, they'll be busy praying. And I understand you have to repent, but again, for how long? Is it something that has to be repeatedly doing?
But Godwin, I tend to agree with part of what you say. I agree with almost what and the entire submission by African man. When you're talking of politicians tend to act or to act in the line of seeking votes during elections, do you entirely mean that at no point are they themselves? You see, there is a time when they are out there, they want to seek votes. Some of them actually will act. Igada, we know Igada is acting. We know when these other politicians working Joho and Raila decide to walk along the whole street, wakisalimia watu, I know that is acting. They will never do it again when they are in power. Now, do you mean no politician will be themselves until the elections are over? I don't think that is true, because there is a time actually you have to be yourself. There is that time when it is a campaign period, but there is the moment you cannot escape. That is the moment when you have to be yourself. And talking of acting, there are actually levels when you may even try to act and fail. There are times when you will not even be acting, it does happen. You see, when you're talking of prayers and emotions, these are not things that everybody actually fakes. You cannot fake prayers, Godwin. I know you can't. But now tell me, if you are, you cannot fake. I mean, you cannot fake tears. You cannot fake tears.
Okay. Let me cut you short. Let me cut you short there. Even leave alone Ruto the politician saying he's faking. We've seen hypocrisy in churches. We've seen people faking, even speaking in tongues. We've seen the so-called men of God making it out of business. And then you're telling me someone cannot fake prayers, MK, for real?
Godwin, we are talking of
this thing is done.
specifically
It's doable.
You see that other things are you can act, but I'm talking about tears that come out of him. You know, tear glands must be stimulated by someone.
MK, you're a lawyer. There are people who cry when they know they committed a crime.
Let me intervene. Let me intervene, please. MK, I agree with a lot you're saying, but there's something I want to disagree with you from a personal experience. I'm a professional actor. We get paid to cry. I cry on stage a lot of times. Real tears. I'm a lawyer person. Shemeji or Wajaluo. There are people who are paid to come and mourn and cry and real tears come. So that's one, take it to the bank. I can fake tears, but I cannot fake prayers.
You're just one. You may be 1 out of 100. You may be 1 out of 100. What is the probability that
there are so many actors? Even Eddie Murphy is one of them.
No, you may be 1 out of. Not many people will drop tears for no reason. I will never drop any tears for no reason.
I went to an acting
So in short, what we are saying, gentlemen, is there is an essence of someone being natural and accepting that one can relate to their feelings, which is very right. And equally, we have to accept that Kenya as a country is known to be a religious state, or rather a Christian-based state, or a faith-based state. And that is why something that Godwin mentions when the Right Honorable mentioned about Christianity being given a very high pivot level of elevation, it became an issue. But as we go into these elections, should we be considering leaders that have some faith-based system belief, or sisi twende secular 100%?
Can I react to that?
Yeah.
First of all, I'd like to say something, to make a clear distinction. And I think that's why I agreed a lot with Wajakoya when he was really against the church. You see, for an African man, there are two things. You can be religious or you can be spiritual. Before we understand the difference, we are lost. You understand? Let's talk about the Christian religion as it is. The Christian religion has got very little African spirituality in it. Very little African spirituality. And I know there's a lot of good African people who are very spiritual, stuck in churches which are
an African man. Christianity has no Africanity in it.
That's what I'm saying. It is a religion. So if the whole people in Kenya are going to church, does not mean that we are spiritual. It is just an institution. Like everybody goes to school in Kenya, everybody goes to church also. But there are a lot of very good pastors who really are spiritual. But the rest, there's also a lot of very just people who take. That's why I say I don't trust 75% of pastors, because it is just another institution. You can be a pastor who's not at all spiritual. You cannot even lead anybody in any spirituality. You cannot even lead a high school kid in just, you know what I mean by spirituality, you know, getting in touch with yourself, getting in touch with the Creator. So that's when you see a pastor who is doing some crazy things, that person is not, he's actually a religious, political, a motivational speaker. Put all those bad things put together. But there are also very good people who know how to pray. Even in the village, people you go to, so these things were there. So sometimes when you talk about Christianity, I like us to be very clear, like there is a lot of religious people in Christianity, but there are also enough spiritual people in Christianity. So is it in Islam. So is it in Hindu. So we have to be very careful when we talk about our country being religious or our country being spiritual.
And just to add on that, Eli, you said if we really need a leader who's going to be like religious, you understand? And one thing I always say, I don't have anything against politicians, but it's what they've made us to know them to be. You understand? So politicians, if IBC declares tomorrow, one of the criteria for you to be cleared to vie for a certain position, you have to be either a Christian or a Muslim or something. and you to be baptized or come with any document from church or from the mosque from anywhere. Trust me, come 2027, every politician will be having that. Are they genuine? No. These people do anything to ascend to power. Some, yes, might be genuine, but now there's a very thin line to understand who's really genuine and who's not. And that's why I take a politician for who he is, not what I think he is.
Great. And I see somebody is asking, what is the conversation we are having? We are having conversation around the issue to do with spiritual or faith-based kind of leadership approach, having seen the Iebc chair approaching the church and asking them to pray for our nation-based results and tranquility as we go into election. So naambiwa wirudishe the discussion ya the president we want, and this is actually the discussion we are having on the president we want. We are trying to ask what kind of president we want, a president that is connected to their spiritual aspect in terms of a leader, or is it just any regular president that we want? Because we saw what Ruto was doing there, and some people have critiqued him for not being true and actually acting that kind of, act. And Matasio says here, he's a good actor. He can equally cry when need be, as long as he gets it paid. So, gentlemen, as we conclude the conversation tonight, what are our major concerns headed into the election in terms of Iebc and the president we want?
Maybe if I go first, the most important thing we need to look out is the fake news being propagated. I don't know if you noticed the U.S. Embassy came out denouncing the information that has been doing rounds on social media, saying that it had issued travel advisory to its citizens from going to Kisumu.
Yes.
So now it's really difficult to understand who is saying the truth, because if such information can go around, tainting maybe or putting the U.S. Embassy in such a position, and then it comes out to refute the claims. And it brings us back to where we were yesterday and saying even what the mainstream media, the role mainstream media plays in this, because some of that information was being circulated by the mainstream media. So where does this put us as we speak? Is it that someone did not fact check where the information came from, or someone just saw something, they ran with it? So let's be watchful with what we consume. If you can't verify, don't share, don't spread what you're not sure.
Thank you so much, Godwin. African man, you want to go?
Yeah, okay, I can go. I mean, for me, the major concern would be the side stories, the drama on the side. And what you also say, it comes with propaganda, it comes with fake news, it comes with conspiracy theories, it comes with a lot of things. Because this is the last moment, even if you're faith-based, it's the moment that you have to make very serious decisions. And we know we have the yin and yang, and we know we have the positive and negative, and we know we have we have Satan and God. And we always believe the last moment to make serious decisions is when you are in the highest value of temptations. So the thing is, the temptations that are going to befall the electorate are the lies. Is Ruto crying for real, or is it a lie? You have to figure it for yourself. Is the U.S. Embassy only telling people don't go to Kisumu alone in Kenya? You can tell. How can a whole U.S. Embassy tell people only Kisumu is bad? Not Nairobi, not Mombasa. Some things you can think for yourself. When there is one bad country, the whole, it will say, you know what, take it easy. So you can say those things. So when you see like that, because I don't think it is such a big concern for a whole U.S. Or U.S. security to only single out one town. So for me, the issue is most likely like for the last remaining less than 10 days, how many of us will fall into the trap of lies that will come with, you see Raila's picture there with a quotation, oh, I will not do this, I'll not do this. So those lies are going to come. So for me, the biggest concern at this moment is who is going to fall into the last traps with lies, propaganda, fake news, And for example, by the way, and I don't believe in the mainstream media. I never believed in the mainstream media for the last about 4 years before the pandemic because I knew it will come. So and I haven't watched CNN for about 10 years. So I really don't have any trust in mainstream media. So, and for you to find out the truth, it will be easier to get away from the mainstream media because they are all owned by politicians and businessmen. And the narrative has to be correct. So that's why I'm concerned. The side stories, propaganda, mainstream media, and all those things. So for me, it's my main concern at the moment.
Great. What is your concern, MK, going to this election? Is it the
Number one,
IEBC? Is
I
it the
think,
electorate?
yes. Number one, I think I start where African man left, almost on the same point. The main point of concern is fake information or fake news and propaganda. That is what is actually being propagated right now in all spheres: social media, mainstream media, politicians, and everyone else who gets who has followership. That is the most concerning point. It is being spread because it is likely to sway the people, especially those people who are undecided, to spread fear so that some people can flee and eventually even not vote, so that they can other people can be painted as violent in their areas, and maybe you'll find that the government or other security forces are having to put in countermeasures to tackle that. What the eventual effect of this, you'll find that there is voter apathy, there is fear, there is migration of people to their homelands, to safety, to all that. Eventually, we will not have actually a credible election. That is not a credible election, even if IEBC will have counted every vote as it has been put into the ballot. But we have all these factors playing in. We will not be having a credible election. Number two, we need to look at the IEBC, how the IEBC is actually prepared. If you ask me, I said it last time, we shouldn't always listen to the politicians as much when they are especially castigating the IEBC. Right now, if you ask me, in my own opinion, the IEBC is actually more prepared than it was in 2017. It is better than it was in 2017, although of course there are loopholes. It can never be 100%. We should never expect it to be 100%. We should only expect it that it is to that level where we can have some trust in it. But that trust is yet to be properly earned. Other than the issue of the 3 Venezuelans who actually arrested at the airport, and maybe that, we haven't had a major issue with the IEBC. We have had the IEBC trying to explain every bit of what they are doing, trying to put out an image that can be trusted, trying to explain to the local, it has even published a very long question and answer a list of the main concerns of the electorate. Every Kenyan can go through it to learn more. I think it has tried to put out a figure, an image to trust. Then we also look at now the issue of peace, and as we talked about it yesterday, it starts with ourselves as Kenyans, together with the politicians. Let us not spread that which is not true. Let us not spread the fear. Let us not share things that we have not verified, as Godwin said. It is for our own good. It is for the good of our brothers who stay elsewhere, away from us, in areas that maybe they are not natives. So let us look into that. And lastly, the other main point of concern is now our own decision. Let us make the proper decision as the electorate. If you can't make a decision, you have another right. I believe it is not a mandatory right to vote, although it is a good to exercise that right. If you can't make a good decision, you rather remain without a decision, because you've done nothing actually. In fact, you have done it worse by electing somebody who is worse, rather than sitting in house and denying that vote. To me, that would be a better decision than going to the ballot.
Well, MK, you call it a better decision. Some will call it, somebody will call it abortion of democracy, because you are refusing to exercise that right and deciding who gets to decide on your behalf as a country. Therefore, I encourage you guys to get out there, vote when it comes 9th August 2022, because your decision and your vote should and must count. Having said that, I need to make some quick corrections here. We had announced that we will have different shows tomorrow. However, we will be having the diaspora vote decision tomorrow right here on Art in Heart. And of course, we'll be streaming that right and direct on Blue Radio. So tune in, let's have the numbers, let's have the conversation as we discuss what is in it as a diaspora electorate. What do you get if you opt to go and vote for your president? These are the discussion we'll be hosting, of course, Maurice Ndole all the way from the US, California. And we will be equally hosting Madame Margaret Ruloff all the way in Germany. And let's see you when you see us. Until next time, thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming on set. I see the African man ready to go to another business of the night. Thank you so much for coming on set. I know you're very busy all the way you have been in Utrecht for a good time. Yes. Thank you so much for joining us. And we have Gordon all the way in Nairobi, Kenya. And without forgetting, last but not least, we have MK Ronald from Kadima and Habakali Advocates. Thank you so much for coming. See you when you see us, and all the others that have joined us in the comment section. Asanteni sana for making this happen every single Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Remember, on Tuesday, 9th August, we will be streaming all this conversation throughout the day. See you when you see us. Good night. God bless you guys. Remember to pray.
For sure.